G'day guys, my name is Wildcard. Super Rugby Round 8, Western Force versus the Melbourne Rebels. This time was at Western Force home base. Both teams had a bye last week, so I was expecting two teams to come out looking fresh, ready to go, ready to rumble. But unfortunately, the Western Force, despite being at home, really failed to perform this week compared to their performances in previous weeks. In fact, the last game they had before they went on the break was against Brumbies, I believe, and they lost by 1 point, and it was a really high scoring. I think it was like 34-33 or something. Pretty high scoring, a lot of attacking, good rugby was played in that game. Coming out of this game, none of that was on display in this evening, so I was a little bit disappointing. I thought the team discipline was a huge issue throughout the game. They were giving away just silly penalties, silly errors, just constantly not able to build pressure as a result of their own undoing. Ian Pryor, he was literally like, had a perfect season when it comes to goal kicking, right? I think he missed one kick going into this game. I'm pretty sure it was either 1 or 2. It was like exceptionally good kicking percentages. And yeah, he missed a lot of kicks this game. He was having a terrible shot kicking, like wasn't even close. Some of the goals that he missed. So that really kind of hurt the Western Force a bit as well. They really needed those points. As you can see, they lost by 1. So yeah, it was a pretty off day for the entire Force team. And for the Rebels, biggest improvement is the man that I criticized a lot at the beginning of the season. He really stepped up once again, and that is Matt Tuamura. The Rebels team, without him, is just not the same. Like, Tuamura was able to manage the game masterfully. It was just, really huge difference when he was on the field. There was a period when he got a yellow card. When he was not on the field, the Rebels were completely lost. Like, they're trying to do like drop goals just to run the clock down to try to get to get Tuamura back on the field again. But once Tuamura is on the field, everything is managed masterfully. His goal kicking is exceptionally good. I think he may only missed 1 this week, but yeah, much better in terms of goal kicking as well, in terms of percentages. And yeah, overall, the Rebels won this game, I would say, largely to do with Matt Tuamura. His game management was quite impressive this game. So overall, the Western Force did have some good moments as well in the second half when, unfortunately, Rebels had a yellow card and red card, where the Western Force were able to really capitalize a little bit, build a lot of momentum, look really good, but once Tuamura came back on the field, all that momentum was just instantly stifled, despite the fact that the Rebels had a red card at that point as well, and Western Force was not able to really capitalize much further once Tuamura was back onto the field, despite having a red card advantage for 20 minutes. So this was pretty big like contrast when the Rebels having Tuamura and not having him on the field. Mata Ele for the Western Force played really well, scored a brilliant try into the corner, and also the Western Force has a bit of a consistency issues. They had these moments where they look like so good in their attack, so good in the handling, and then not able to have that consistency for the entire 80 minutes of the game. In fact, not even having that consistent for like half a game, really. Like, it's just something that I was really didn't look nearly as good as they were from their previous showing against the Brumbies. So we do know that the Western Force having the coach being fired, he's going to be leaving end of the season, may have something to do with that. They did talk about, stepping up to finish off the season strong, but I feel like that is pretty disruptive to fire a coach in the middle of the season and then continue to tell him to finish the season. We're replacing you next year. So it's really like disruptive by the management as well for the Western Force. That did not help them. I'm sure that has something to do with their performance today as well. Like, it's just such a disruptive thing going into in the middle for your team to manage during the middle of the season. So really unprofessional, I thought, for the management team to kind of like announce that this week in the middle of the season. And when, the playoffs is still up for grabs, the Western Force, I thought that was really, really poor form by the management. So overall, despite the Western Force losing but 1, you can see Western Force actually scored 3 tries to the Rebels 1. But the Rebels really managed those opportunities when they did have Matt Tomura on the field to kick those penalty goals when they needed to capitalize. Their kicking game was quite well as well, to able to put the Western Force, were able to play the game in the areas that the Rebels wanted to play, to be able to pressure those penalties as well. Something that Matt Tomura and all the team with the kicking, Joey Powell did it as well with the kicking game as well. And right at the end, the Rebels had to hold off the Western Force for about not 8 minutes, but about 5 minutes, maybe 10 if you count the last penalty. 5 minutes, the last penalty for 5 minutes or 6 minutes. Really managed that quite well with their kicking game as well, just to play the territory, putting the Western Force inside their own half, around their own 22, so they cannot, put the Rebels in the threatening position to score that final bit of points to win the game. So really, really well done for the Rebels, closing out game as well. Something that they've had struggled with close games, to be able to close that out for the win. They managed to do that this time as well. So yeah, 5 penalties for the Rebels and 1 try. Western Force, 3 tries, 0 conversion from the 3 tries from Pryor, and 2 penalties, and Pryor only hit 1 penalty. So this was really a poor day out in the office for Ian Pryor, to say the least. And some stats: Western Force having the higher run meters, 424 run meters to the Rebels, 272. Tackles, 107 to 120. 11 missed tackles for the rest of Western Force, having better tackle completion rate as well. And the Rebels having 22 missed tackles, so worse in that front as well. But the kicking game from the Western Force, 22 kicks in play for the 20 for the 22 kicks in play for the Rebels, and 20 for the Western Force. And I think the key point for the whole game, line out, was really poor for both teams as well, especially for the Western Force, literally throwing their own line out in, not straight. 5 line outs lost out of 9. That's really, 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 really poor. And the Rebels, 10 line outs, 1 to their 3 loss as well, so not really perfect either. But the main thing here, the penalties, 13 penalties to the against the Western Force, to the Rebels 9. 1 yellow cards for both teams, 1 red card for against the Rebels as well. So yeah, just 2. The yellow card was firstly given to Matt Tomura for just high shots, player ducked into it, so mitigated down to yellow. Second, the red card against the Rebels was again high shots of the head, no mitigation. So the Rebels had to manage with 30 minutes with 1 play in the bin, and Western Force still not able to close this one out. So this was that's a bit disappointing if you're a Western Force fan, to say the least. So let's quickly go through the tries. So Rebels actually came out really strong, really good phases building at the start. Matt Tomura got really close to the try line. He kind of runs in, breaks into a bit of, gets himself in tackle as he's down on his knees, being tackled onto the ground. Pops the ball back up, keeping the ball alive. Rebels kind of spins the ball out wide. Leslie gets the ball, goes in through a bit of a gap in the midfield for the first try for the Rebels. Really, really nicely done. And that looked good. That Tomura play really showed that the organization was there. But that was pretty much the only chance. Not only chance, that was the only try the Rebels scored. It's in the 5th minute into the game. 5 minutes into the game. And after that, the Rebels really just try to manage the game. It's a little bit disappointing. I thought the Rebels, despite having line-out advantage, despite having scrummaging dominance as well, they weren't able to utilize that platform to build into more tries. But they did able to use those platforms to build more into penalty points. So a pretty clear strategy coming out of the Rebels to try to win this via some kind of penalty. But they sure did that. But I was disappointed that they didn't try to squeeze out a few more tries there. So Western Force Go into halftime. Mataele gets a try into the corner. This was a beautiful try. He gets, they call him like the Fijian Airways. He kind of like basically wasn't forced to building some pressure with Matt Tamura yellow carded. So they have one man overlap. They throw the ball into Mataele in the wing. He tries to jumps into the corner as he's getting like tackled in the air. He's like flying, half his body's flying over the sideline. He dunks the ball in the corner. This was really, really nice. Second half comes out. Wasn't forced knowing they had still has a player advantage. Really took advantage of that. And this whole 3 tries was scored in the period where Matt Tamura had the yellow card. And you can see like how much of a difference this is. 3 tries in 10 minutes for when Matt Tamura had a yellow card. Godwin comes out like a minute into the game, into the second half. Little chip kick over by, I think Mataele had a little run on the wing, passes the ball inside before he gets pushed out. And I think it was one of the Western Force center gets the ball, just a little chip over, chase, a bit of a scramble in the try zone. Godwin gets his hand on the ball, second try for the Western Force. And then just before Matt Tamura being able to get back on, Western Force again building pressure against the Rebels. During this period, Rebels just completely had no idea what they're doing. There was a drop goal by Reece Hodge, just like completely trying to waste time. It was really a bit pathetic, to be honest. Completely trying to waste time to get Matt Tamura to run the clock down for Matt Tamura to come back onto the field. Anyway, Lacey gets onto the try, 46 minutes. Again, just bit pressure building from Western Force. So good attack, good of hands. Lacey crashes in for 46 minutes for the Force. And then that was it. And once Tamura back in on the field, the game was back in control of the Rebels with a nice kicking game. And their forwards was able to build that dominance, build those penalties for them to slowly chipping away with a kick as well. I do have to say that Reece Hodge kicked 2 penalties, long-range penalties. I was pretty impressed. One of them was like 40 meters out with a bit of an angle. One of them was exactly 50 meters, kind of like on the dot where the kickoff is. Slotted that through. Was really, really good to see. I really would like to see Reece Hodge getting those long-range kicks in form, because that's kind of like really important for the Wallabies. We need one of those guys who can kick those long-range kicks. And Hodge has always had the distance, but never really had the accuracy. But good to see that he landed 2 really, really good long kicks. So I was pretty happy with that. Yeah, end of the day, the Rebels really managed well. Force was really, really close. And yeah, I don't know how many times I've said this, mentioned his name. Hopefully you're not playing a drinking game. Matt Tamura, my man of the match, really steered the ship into out of the storms, into safe waters for the Rebels. And congratulations for I think 3 wins in a row now for the Rebels. Really good job. And thank you for watching this video, guys. I do really appreciate it. Like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts. And thank you guys. See you guys tomorrow for the triple header. And cheers.